The night my family called me unworthy was supposed to be my brother's happiest moment. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above a ballroom filled with white roses, gold-trimmed place settings, and the soft hum of a string quartet playing something elegant enough to match the old money atmosphere. I stood near the back of the engagement celebration, holding a glass of sparkling water I hadn't touched, listening as my mother leaned toward a cluster of guests from the Whitmore family and said in a tone that carried just far enough, "Lena has always been different. She's brilliant in her own way, but this world isn't really her level." A polite laugh followed. Then someone else added, "Not everyone is cut out for certain circles." I felt the words land like a quiet slap. My brother Daniel didn't correct them. He just smiled stiffly, his arm wrapped around his fiancée, Camille Whitmore, whose family name practically owned half the luxury real estate on the East Coast. And then my father said it, casually, almost kindly, "We just didn't want any awkward impressions tonight. This is an important alliance." An alliance. Not a marriage, not love, an alliance, and apparently I wasn't qualified to stand next to it. If you have ever been told, directly or indirectly, that you weren't enough for your own family's biggest moments, like this video and subscribe, because what happened after that night turned everything upside down in a way none of them saw coming. My name is Elena Cruz. I'm the older sibling, the quiet one, the one who never quite fit into the polished narrative my parents preferred. Growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, our family image mattered more than almost anything else. Appearances, reputation, strategic friendships. My father built a respectable, mid-sized investment advisory firm from scratch, and my mother curated a social life that revolved around galas, boards, and charity committees. Daniel was the golden child from the start, charismatic, athletic, smooth in conversation. He knew how to shake hands at 12 years old like he was closing mergers. People adored him. They said he had leadership in his bones. I, on the other hand, preferred spreadsheets to small talk. While Daniel was hosting pool parties and charming donors at fundraisers, I was in my room teaching myself financial modeling and coding automated forecasting systems for fun. When I got into a top finance program on a full academic scholarship, my parents congratulated me politely. When Daniel secured an internship through one of my father's golf buddies, they threw him a celebration dinner. I learned early not to expect the spotlight. I learned to build in silence. After college, instead of joining my father's firm like Daniel eventually did, I moved to Tampa and started something small. Just me and a rented office space with outdated carpet and a secondhand desk. I built a financial risk analytics platform designed to help small and mid-sized firms detect portfolio vulnerabilities before market swings crushed them. It started with one client, then 3, then 10. I reinvested every dollar, slept on the office couch more nights than I'd ever admit, taught myself advanced machine learning integrations. Slowly, steadily, the company grew. But back home, none of that really existed. When I visited for holidays, my success was summarized as, "Elena works in tech finance down in Florida." That was it. No curiosity, no follow-up. Meanwhile, Daniel's every promotion at our father's firm was celebrated like he'd just solved global poverty. And then came Camille Whitmore. Old Southern legacy, multi-generational wealth, private schools in Switzerland. Her family didn't just have money, they had influence, the kind that opens doors before you even knock. When Daniel started dating her, my parents shifted into overdrive. Suddenly, everything was about being presentable, aligning properly, ensuring no missteps that might jeopardize the future. The engagement announcement came 6 months later, a lavish affair at the Whitmore estate. I received my invitation with a small handwritten note from my mother. "Please keep things understated. It's important that tonight goes smoothly." I wore a simple navy dress. Nothing flashy. I arrived alone, and I left with the word unworthy echoing in my mind. The next morning, I was back in Tampa, sitting in my glass-walled corner office overlooking the bay, when my assistant buzzed in. "Ms. Cruz, there's a Mr. Whitmore here to see you. He says it's urgent." My fingers froze above the keyboard. Whitmore? As in Camille's father? The Whitmores didn't visit people like me. They summoned them. I told her to send him in. The air shifted. He explained that one of his subsidiary investment arms had been piloting my analytics platform under a different entity name. They wanted unbiased data before approaching me directly. The results had exceeded projections. My system had flagged structural weaknesses in 2 major property-backed portfolios before market tremors hit. It saved them tens of millions. "You built this?" he asked, not doubting, confirming. "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Your brother's firm did not detect those vulnerabilities." Silence filled the room like pressure before a storm. Then he said something that rewrote everything. "I came here because I don't align my family with incompetence. And based on the numbers, if there's anyone unworthy of alliance, it's not you." He slid a folder across my desk. Inside was a proposal, an integration partnership between my firm and the Whitmore Financial Group. A deal that would not only multiply my company's reach, but effectively overshadow my father's advisory business in scale and innovation. "However," he added carefully, "there is a condition." I raised an eyebrow. "Transparency. I do not conduct business with families who diminish their own." I understood instantly. This wasn't just about contracts. It was about correction. 2 weeks later, my parents and Daniel were invited, not to a celebration, but to a strategic partnership announcement at the Whitmore headquarters in Charleston. They arrived expecting formalities, networking, perhaps reassurance that the engagement alliance remained intact. Instead, they walked into a press-lined conference room with my company logo displayed alongside the Whitmore crest. I stood at the podium beside Henry Whitmore. The room buzzed as I outlined the joint venture, how Cruz Analytics would become the primary risk intelligence arm for Whitmore Holdings. Cameras flashed, investors whispered. My father's face drained of color. Daniel's expression flickered between confusion and disbelief. And then Henry took the microphone. "In matters of alliance," he said steadily, "we prioritize competence, integrity, and vision. Elena Cruz exemplifies all 3. The silence that followed was deafening. After the conference, there was no dramatic confrontation, no screaming, just reality settling in like dust after collapse. Camille approached me quietly, eyes softer than before. "I didn't know," she admitted. "They never talk about your work." I gave a small smile. "They never asked." The engagement wasn't officially called off that day, but something fundamental shifted. The narrative my family had carefully constructed no longer held power. Over the next months, the ripple effects were undeniable. My father's firm began losing mid-tier clients who migrated toward data-driven models. Daniel struggled under scrutiny when comparisons surfaced. And for the first time, my parents called not to advise, but to listen. I didn't gloat, I didn't seek apology speeches. I focused on scaling the partnership, expanding into new markets, hiring more analysts, launching a scholarship fund for women in quantitative finance, quietly ensuring the next different daughter wouldn't grow up believing she was less. The last time I saw my family, it wasn't at a gala, it was at my Tampa office. My mother stood in the lobby, looking smaller somehow. "We misjudged you," she said softly. I held her gaze, calm. "No, you underestimated me. There's a difference." Here's what I learned. Sometimes the people who call you unworthy are simply threatened by what they can't measure. And sometimes the person who walks into your office isn't there to test you, but to reveal who truly sees your value. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever built something powerful while being quietly dismissed, like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't humiliation, it's visibility.